Hello and welcome to this episode of the MediaTech Podcast. We are at the Houston campus today. Very exciting. I'm hardly ever here, once every couple of months or so. My name is Matt, and I'd like to introduce these guys right here, if you wouldn't mind doing that for me.
All right, well, my name is Arion Rivers. Most people know me as Relly.
And my name is Ray Smith, and I go by Ray.
Awesome. So today we're going to talk about podcasting. We're doing a podcast. And if y'all wouldn't mind just giving just a couple sentence background of what you guys do for MediaTech, professionally, etc.
Okay. All right, so I am the Career Services Director here at MediaTech. I am a 2016 graduate for our Recording Arts program, 2017 graduate for our animation program. And I got into podcasting randomly. A friend of mine called me. He was like, "Hey man, I want to record a podcast." I was like, "Okay." Like, seriously, it's just a okay. And from there, it was like a word of mouth thing. And next thing I know, I have 7 to 8 clients.
Wow, yeah. That's awesome. How about you?
Well, I was working at a church with one of our instructors here, Jacob Metter, and one of the ministries wanted me to start editing their podcast. So
Gotcha.
It was one of those things that, man, like it was like last on my list of things to do, because it's literally just taking the sermon and, you know, posting it. And like I would forget it every week. It'll be like Monday after Sunday service. They'll be like, "Where's the podcast?" Right? It's like, please, just let's get rid of it. There's 30 listeners on it, right. You know, but yeah. I kept with it, and then I started hearing more about podcasting. I'm like, okay, so this is a thing, and I eventually somehow stumbled onto the podcast editing group on Facebook.
Oh, cool.
There's a podcast editors group, and that's when I saw that there's a whole world out there just for podcast editors.
Yeah.
So I really started diving deep into that community, and then would eventually just start, my own podcasting company with the help of people within that group. I actually got 2 of my first clients from that group just from
cool.
introducing myself.
Awesome. So
that was the kickstart of my business in podcasting, and it grew. I think, I'm around about 8 to 10 clients. You know, we have PodFade, but and we would open a podcast studio downtown. This was two months ago.
In Houston, obviously.
In Houston.
Awesome.
So so we opened up a podcast studio, and that's a place for, new podcasters to come and, just if they don't want to invest right off into getting the equipment and, building it, they can just try it out, come out there and record. We invite people into the Houston pod, but I guess we'll get into that later. But but that's part of the business strategy that we use.
Awesome. And you graduated from MediaTech in
2009.
2009,
yes.
From down here, right?
Yes.
Houston? Cool.
Yes, 2009 grad.
Awesome.
Yes.
And what brought you to MediaTech originally?
Man, I wanted to be a hip hop star, man. That's all I knew
Really?
when I got out of school. I was like, man, I want to rap. My mom was like, well, there's no school for that, so you need to find something closer to your profession. So the next up was the audio engineering thing, especially out here in Houston. So there was no programs that really had developed as far as MediaTech had at that point in time. So it was a no-brainer for me to go with MediaTech, and that kind of is what brought me here.
Awesome. How about you? I don't think I've ever asked you that. What brought you to MediaTech?
So my story is weird. I was a rapper.
Okay.
Like most of us.
Okay.
Yes, was. I'm a music producer. I manage artists, and I owned a studio. And I just, since I graduated high school, I've always had this passion for music. My dad used to DJ. My uncle was a party promoter, and it was just in my blood, I guess. And I started a production company with one of my friends back in 2004. I started my music career. I'm not gonna say rap career. I started my music career around 2006 or 7, and it was just one of those things where I was already engineering, and I didn't realize it because everybody would come to my spot to record, and it just kind of it kept building, and all of a sudden, next thing I know, I rented out a space, bought some equipment, because I got tired of going to other studios and not being treated right.
For sure.
So I was like, you know what? I'm going to just record myself. And then I would go to showcases and everybody would be like, man, where'd you record? I was like, I recorded myself. Well, how much would you charge to record me? Ding. Light goes off. I made more money in my first recording session than I ever did on stage. So I was like, oh, I'm done with this rap stuff. I'm a money guy. My favorite color is green. Go Pack. And, you know, that was just the thing about, you know, and then I developed a passion for the recording aspect. So I opened my studio, and one of my band group mates and a couple of close friends of mine that I met, they went to school here. And they were like, man, you need to go. Like, I'm tired of you asking me questions about Pro Tools. Like, you just need to go to school for it. Like, it'll really help you. Like, how are you a studio owner and you don't really even know how to use a program? So that's how I came to MediaTech. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's interesting that you owned a studio before you even got here.
But it really helped because I remember the first week, shout out to Victor. Victor was my instructor for one-on-one at the time.
I love that guy.
And it was a humbling experience because Victor's younger than me, and I already have a studio. So I guess I had my chest out a little bit. And he helped me realize, like, hey, man, you don't know as much as you think you know. And I came in with the mindset of, like, I know absolutely nothing. And that really helped. It helped. Like, it made me the engineer that I am today.
So funny that you mentioned Victor. Anybody that might be watching this on YouTube, the very beginning, the intro to this podcast shows someone playing a guitar in a studio. That's actually Victor.
Hey, yeah, good job, Vic. Slick Vic. That's what I call him, Slick Vic.
So my background with podcasts, I went to MediaTech Dallas. Like I said, I graduated 2012 in the digital film program. I went in just like probably everybody expecting to be a movie director, you know, next Tarantino or whatever. And upon graduation, that's really when YouTube channels started becoming like a viable business for already established brands.
Right.
So I did a little bit of time at an advertising agency, and then got hired at actually a remote control car company, a really big one.
Wow. Remote control car company.
Yeah.
That's so cool and random.
I know.
Yes. That is random but excellent. Like, that's so cool. That's like a kid's dream.
And they're actually adult remote control cars. They go like 100, literally like 100 miles an hour.
That's
better. And so went in to grow their YouTube channel with my video background, and really learned the ins and outs of analytics on YouTube and how to grow a channel from a brand perspective. And then got a local client in Dallas on the side. And they wanted to start a YouTube channel from zero. They had kind of an established Facebook with a couple dozen thousand followers, but they wanted to start from nothing on YouTube. And also they wanted to not necessarily cross promote their Facebook and YouTube. So they wanted to literally start from zero. And so the big thing at that time, it is currently as well, but for analytics was watch time. It's not, it used to be all about views, like the more views your video got, the more the system would promote it. But now, even if you don't have hardly any views, if you have a ton of watch time, that's how the algorithm will promote your content.
That's good information.
We can get way deeper if you want another time. But so at that time, I was kind of a fan of a channel which is not even PG-13 rated if you're listening, but called H3H3 Productions. I was a fan of, and they had a podcast on YouTube that was blowing up. And I made that connection between hour-plus long content and not a whole lot of views gets crazy promotion on YouTube. So that's kind of where I fell into the podcast side of it, where in addition to some other content for that client, we started producing podcasts for them. And even though the views weren't there from the beginning, like there weren't a whole lot of listeners, just having those hour-plus long podcasts on a weekly schedule, you get 3 viewers that watch the whole thing, you got 3 hours of watch time. Whereas if you had a 5-minute video, that's like 100 or more viewers. It gets a little more complicated than that, but that's kind of how I fell into it. And then started working with MediaTech. And that's the thing now, like there's not a whole lot of listeners to the podcast yet. They're mostly students. They just want to hear the goings on or whatever. But that watch time is really helping out. So
sweet.
Awesome. So it's kind of a slow burn on YouTube, but it really helps. But yeah, I wanted to ask you guys how you think podcasts might be valuable to not just brands, but also individuals looking to get their name out there?
I'll let you start.
Man, there's so many ways. For instance, I work with coaches, and one of the things that you have to know about podcasting is who is the core listener base for a podcast. They're typically affluent. They're typically older. Mm-hmm. They're typically sometimes retired. They're in a different stage of life, and that means it's more lucrative. I mean, because you have to talk about ROI when you talk to individuals. So that's the thing with podcast listeners is it's not typically younger kids. It's people who are in a different stage of life where they can financially afford a business coaching course or a product that you're selling. So this is great news for companies and independent creatives who have products that they want to sell and things that they want to scale. So that's one of the things that I think to know.
Absolutely.
It's crazy to hear the different spectrums because all of my podcasts are just content based. So I guess their product is their podcast.
Got you. Yeah, that's true.
They really normally talk about current events, crazy stuff that's going on. My podcasts are wild. Like sometimes I sit in that studio and I'm like, what did I get myself into? This is crazy.
Yes.
But it's a free form for people to just open and speak and just say whatever they want, and they say whatever they want. Yeah, it's just, it can be lucrative in the aspect of, I guess, the engineer side. And if you can kind of understand how to promote and how to just get people attracted to whatever's going on. And then like there's so many different demographics. Like I can understand the selling point of selling to an older audience, but I didn't realize that there is a young demographic that really enjoys talking. There's something special about getting microphones, headphones, and just hitting the record button and just listening to people talk about stuff.
Right.
Because if you're not there when you're listening, you really feel like you're in the room. With whoever is speaking.
And I mean, I know I'm not alone that whenever I'm editing or whatever, something on the computer or driving or whatever, a podcast is just about the first thing I go to. And that's got to be a huge portion of the listener base for most podcasts.
Definitely.
But yeah, I mean, how would you suggest students that are trying to get into that world that may not even see podcasts as like a very lucrative or potential business opportunity? What would you say to either current students or graduates or someone in that field?
That's funny. So today, I had a meeting today with a gentleman. He has a business that he's trying to get started, and it revolves around podcasting. And
a graduate?
No, this is just a random guy.
Oh, cool.
They called, and when he called, they called me.
No, okay.
They're like, "Real, this guy needs to do something about podcasts." Cause that's what I'm known for on the campus.
Got you.
I can set up anywhere. It's just random. You don't need much. It's fairly easy.
Yeah.
And when it comes to audio, you're an audio guy. Like,
yes, yeah.
It's really easy.
That's the thing.
The editing part is probably the most difficult part, but just the recording aspect is cool. It's about being punctual, professional, making sure people can just come in, sit down, talk, and leave.
Yeah.
They don't have any hassle. They don't have to worry about things. And I think it's easy for us because we know what we're doing.
Right.
But he came in, and I found this as an opportunity to get somebody else involved, because a lot of kids like ourselves, we were into music.
Right.
We don't realize this is an audio school. It's not a music school. It's an audio school.
Right.
And I wanted to show them that, hey, yeah, being a rapper is fun, or being a producer is cool, but how many of you guys are really going to take this to the level of where you can sustain, where you can pay your bills, where you can eat every day off of just being a rapper? Very few in between. I wish everyone luck. I've been there. I've done it. I understand what you're going through, but you have to understand that there is more than being an artist. Like, all of the skills that you learn when you come to MediaTech, you can utilize to take care of yourself and your family if you have one.
Yeah.
And that was a prime opportunity. There's a lot of money involved depending on that. And I don't think people realize how popular podcasting is. My fiance, she's been podcasting for maybe 6 or 7 years now. Mm-hmm. She was doing it before it was a big thing. She's recognized they have thousands of views a week or listens a week, and they're doing very well. And all of a sudden, I just saw something. I'm like, this is trending. Like, this is becoming a thing.
Yeah.
So I can compare it to when music started becoming less analog and more digital, going from records, tapes, cassettes, and CDs to iTunes, iHeartRadio, more digital formats where you can just pick up your cell phone or any device that has connection to the internet and listen to whatever you want.
Yeah.
So there's no rules and regulations right now. There's not a lot of stuff going on. It's really a free-for-all.
Right.
And it's becoming a big thing. There are a lot of job opportunities out here for content directors in the big cities, New York, California, Atlanta, and to me, that shows that there is a huge market for this, and they need people to fulfill these positions. So any one of our students could very much easily take those jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I do want to touch on the technical aspect a little bit because I imagine when you came in and saw this setup, you're like, oh yeah, he's a video guy. Yeah. Because we do quite a bit of traveling, not just to Houston, but we do also a series called Graduated for MediaTech, which is little mini documentaries about graduates. Oh, cool. So like next week we'll be in Atlanta and also Las Vegas, and we went to Nashville a few weeks ago. So this setup is like perfect for us, although it's really heavy because these mounts. But
they're a little bottom heavy.
So for those that are not watching on YouTube, we just have a Zoom recorder with 3 AT2020 microphones and pop filters, and that's it. Yep. And I'll sync up and post, and usually we have a couple of cameras, but just since we're traveling, we're just doing the one camera. But I wanted to talk to you guys about the setup that you guys use, both either in a studio and then if you had to on a travel podcast shoot.
Well, I love to use X32.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Easy, the smaller X32 with 16 channels. It's not as lightweight, but it's an interface. It's easy to use. It's very user friendly. I also have an XR18. It's like a smaller condensed version of that. You have to control it with an iPad. That's the one thing I don't like about it. But again, it's another interface. I have Shure 48s that I use that I don't really like, but they get the job done. They're cheap. They're $50 a microphone, and it sounds just as good as a 58. Like, you have to find ways to be crafty. I know a lot of people could probably get caught up in appearance and things like that, and that's a huge part of this. A lot of people don't understand. Same stuff people see on YouTube or on television. Clients want the same thing.
Yeah.
So, not only do you have to provide a great product, but sometimes you really just have to look the part as well.
That's a good point for sure.
Yeah,
how about
definitely. So right now we have a M32R and
Midas.
Midas M32R. Closest, I'm big on analog sound. I was a guy here at MediaTech with my analog tape. So I wanted the closest thing to analog, and it was a little bit overkill, but I mean, I do other things with the M32 as well. But M32R, you have the Waves plugins that you can integrate with it. So I love it for that. And then we have some RE320 microphones, and we have these new capsules by SE, some dynamite capsules that we've attached to each one of these microphones to boost the signal level, so that we're not getting that noise from the gain. And even the M32 has a pretty clean gain structure, but with these RE320 microphones, it's really good to put some type of amplification under it to really get a clean sound, but anything can be removed in post. But that's pretty much our technical setup. So
how about editing? So I mean, one thing that I'm used to particularly is I do obviously some video editing, and very occasionally I'll either cut bits or move them around, but 90% of the podcasts that we film are not edited at a time.
Set it and forget
There
it.
you go. Okay, cool. That's what I was wondering.
So I think the largest assistance component that I could say is presets.
Yes.
If you have clients and they're consistent, they might have a guest here or there. Set up your what is it called? Templates. Templates will save you. If you have podcast A, B, C, D, E, F, have template A, B, C, D, E, F. Right. You pull it up, you put your inputs however they are. Make sure whoever is on mic A, B, or C is listed on, just make sure everything lines up, and your recording process would be so much easier, especially if you use the same consistent equipment. Well, if you use the same equipment consistently, if you're in the same environment, using the same equipment with the same people, use the same template. It will help a lot, because you can store your plugins, everything, your chain, your gain structure, all of that stuff will really help, and it'll reduce your editing process and time, because I used to do everything the same way every time. I'd start all over, and it's really time consuming, especially getting out great quality if your turnover rate is really good, you'll be fine. And then you can give yourself more time, especially because I know you understand how busy you are. If you have 8 podcasts every week.
Yes.
And you have to edit 8 podcasts every week. It can really get crazy, and it's I could probably give this to you the same day, but the fact that I have a life and I'm a human being, I'm gonna tell you 48 hours. And that's still a great turnaround time.
Yes, absolutely.
You see what I'm saying? So you gotta give yourself some space, some cushion to be able to, it's a business thing.
For sure. How about you?
Sorry, what was the question?
Just about editing. What's your editing process like?
So right now, to be honest, I'm in a point of transitioning out of the editing side and more into just the management side of things. I had to decide early on, do I want to be a freelancer and continue editing podcasts? Is that my strong skill set, my strongest skill set? And I'm better at sometimes marketing, and I like sitting and chatting with clients and talking strategy and things like that. So I've actually been working on getting systems and processes down right now. But before, yes, I was editing. I had an AM PM schedule. I would edit a podcast in the AM and PM, and I would not overstack myself beyond that. So that's Monday through Friday, because then you have revisions. I'm sure you might be familiar with that.
Oh my God.
So the revisions will wreck your schedule. So I'm in the process of, I have a junior editor pretty much who just cleans up the podcast, and then I go in there and I do the audio engineering side, which I still love and enjoy, getting to work with, my plugins and things and pushing the limit. So, but right now, yes, like I said, I have an editor. I'm training audio engineer right now to step up and take over some of the engineering side of things. And I'll still be involved in some of the launches, like clients that we bring on. I'll help out with the initial setting of the templates. And then I'll pass my templates. So one of the requirements I have with my audio engineers is that we all have the same plugins, the same templates, that we're working in the same system, so it's easy to just transition, a project to someone without losing, the integrity of the sound, which is most important. So that's kind of where we are. Really consistency. Important. I had a client that could tell, because I was doing it the same way. I was restarting every podcast, and he could tell, and I couldn't figure out how to get it back to sound like that. So luckily, I just went back to the old session, but I was just like, all right, I'm doing templates from now on, because it's like, man.
Yeah.
So you mentioned revisions. Thankfully, I'm in a position where we don't get a whole lot on the podcast sides, but what are some of the experiences you've been through, and what kind of revisions do clients ask for?
So, like I said, my clients are crazy, and they say some crazy things and stuff that they are like, whoa, I can't say that.
Oh, I see.
So, things we learn, markers, stuff like that. If I hear something, I mark it.
Type
it. Okay, they might want that out. Mark it. I guess the best part is staying ready so that you don't have to get ready. Like, think ahead of your clients. You know the end product better than they do. And I think that's to our advantage. If you can think ahead, and it takes a little bit because you got to grow. You have to grow with your client. Got to be around them a little bit, get a feel for them. Fortunately, like all of my clients, we've been recording at least the shortest amount of time was probably 5 months. Everyone else is like a year plus.
Gotcha.
So I know them. We come. It's just routine. They come in, they sit down, they do their thing. We're good. Like live podcasts, that's a whole different monster.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of editing involved in that, making sure certain mics are room mics and DJs and music, and it's a
Wow.
It's a big thing. Like podcasting can be pretty much anything, and you have to be ready for that. So all that preparation and studying and learning and practice that you get, regardless if you were in the studio with an artist or a church or a podcast or whatever, like the essential skills are the same.
Yeah.
And revisions is just one of those things where people listen and they're like, oh, wait, oh, no, I wanted this, I want to change this, or I want to change that. And like having your stuff in order, your template, it really, really helps.
Yeah.
Being able to group stuff, cut, snap it back together,
Right.
and send it out in a matter of minutes. Like it's I hate it.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, so with revisions, so my team, you know, I have a show notes writer and also a project manager who manages all of the podcasts that we have. So part of their responsibilities as the show note writer is listening through the podcast. I have a checklist for her to go down in case she hears something, because I'm like, you're listening to it anyway as you write the show notes. So, it'll be, you know, can we make a deal here? And then the project manager, she does another touch on it, and then I kind of do a full overview, you know, of it. Because with our clients, we actually publish the podcast. So the last thing we want sometimes is for them to come back and say, hey, something's wrong with the podcast. It's published, and that's a whole.
That's a headache.
That's a headache.
Yeah, because once it's already out there, like,
especially
depending on the platform you use. Y'all use Podbean?
Different Lips and Podbean.
Okay.
A bunch of different ones.
Buzzsprout. I don't know if y'all use Buzzsprout.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll remember that.
Yeah. So, and I'll give you a quick one. And a lot of times it's me. You know, it's trying to, you know, you look away for a second, you might just tracks might get slid the wrong way if you didn't group them right. If you know how it is. So, but for instance, I had a mono jack plugged into my interface, and I'm listening to the podcast, and for some reason I panned. I guess I was checking the pans or something. I panned my master channel and forgot to pan it back. So as I'm listening to it, it's in mono, so it's coming down in both earphones. So I publish it, and I'm like, it's good. It sounds solid, you know.
Little did you know.
Did not get as much sound as I'm used to, but it sounds good. Published it, and of course, it's coming out of one earphone as on iTunes. So
everybody's freaking out.
Yes, everyone's. I was like, yep, no problem, you know, fix it. But you know, luckily Libsyn just lets you replace it. So I was able to fix it in about 10 or 15 minutes, but still, it was just like, oh my gosh, and that's when I got like some QC situations going on for myself. Important. You know, yeah.
That's great. Good thing you have a team.
Yes.
I hate that sometimes, because it can be overwhelming at times.
It can.
Because like you kind of get into the habit of really, you know, it's just a habit.
Yeah.
And I got it in the pocket. Can you record? Sure. There's 7 days out of the week.
Right.
So when you start, I have 9 pockets. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Like, how is this going to work?
Right.
You know, and it's a lot. Like being independent and doing it myself. I commend you for doing what you did at opening your studio, because it's actually a dream of mine. So hopefully after this we'll talk a little bit later.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just want to pick your brain a little bit.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, sweet. So how can people find you guys?
So for me, social media wise, personally, it's I'm _Ray Smith. And then the HoustonPod.com is my business page where you can go and check out some of the podcasts I've worked on, and also just learn more about the Houston Pod and what we're up to.
Nice. And we'll throw that in the description as well. So if you're interested, check that out. How about you?
Come on down to 3324 Walnut Bend. I'm always here. Literally, I'm always here. I'm here more than anyone. And I need to change that, but I'm always here. I'm really not trying to take on any new clients. I'm really not.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really trying to get some of these students to realize, like, hey, man, get your money. Like, this, you go to school to start a career.
Right.
It's not just a hobby. You spend a lot of money to go to school, and you need to get a return on your investment.
Yes.
And it's very important that they understand that. And I'm not greedy. I'll pass work on. I just want to make sure they're ready. I'm on their tail about it. We're structured. You know what you're doing, because if my name's involved and you need to take pride in stuff too, I want them to understand, like, you got to take pride in your work. You got to take pride in your product. That's how you keep your clients coming. I just want them to be professionals. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I'm not taking on any more clients. Yeah. The group I have is the group I have. Yeah. Honestly.
Yeah. And just on, on that note, I think I was the kid, coming in here with my chest out as well. Like, I'm coming here, and like a lot of students are, because my parents are forcing me to come here. Like, you got to go to school. So I was here, or it's the thing to do. It's the culturally acceptable thing to do. So I was here, but I felt like I had already been doing it since I was 15, had my chest out. But, they will humble you very quickly as you get in here, because, you don't know what you don't know until you get here. Yep. And also, my instructor gave me my first, opportunity, my first job. That
me too.
So respect those instructors, because, they are where you want to be. They've done it. They've been there, and they're the people who are going to write your reviews. Like, I have him writing, because I'm coming back in to finish my associates.
Oh, nice, man.
So, congratulations.
So they're writing up my scholarship, same guy, gave me my first job, like I said. So, but yeah, with podcasting too, I never thought I'd be a podcast editor. I didn't know it existed. I probably would have, shunned it back then. But again, it's about making a living. Do you want to, not to knock anyone in the corporate world, but I've done it. I've been out there. I've been in the construction field, so I've been in both worlds. And there's nothing like working in music for me. There's nothing like waking up each day and having more control of my schedule and saying, this is as many clients as I want, or I don't want this client anymore. There's just a different appreciation for it now. Especially coming back, I'm just in reminiscent mode, like, man, this kid here, I saw my old picture.
After
I'm like, that kid
too.
knew nothing.
10 years.
10 years, man. Yeah.
That's cool, man. Congrats on that.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Thank you.
So normally at the end of the podcast, I give a little spiel about why MediaTech's awesome, but we have the career services guy here. So, you want to close it out?
Well, MediaTech is great. It's been everything for me, and it's a family environment. This is a place where you can come learn. If you got personal stuff going on, we care about that too. Like, MediaTech is a family. It's a real live testament to our slogan, do what you love and love what you do. If you love what you do and you start doing what you love, that's the beginning of happiness, like being fulfillment. And I learned so much just being here with my peers, my instructors, my coworkers. Like, I love every single person I work with. I love my job. And I feel like anybody that comes through this building, if you have any interest in any of the fields or programs that we offer, you will enjoy yourself and you will learn so much, and you have a great time while doing it. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much, guys.
No problem.
If you are interested in MediaTech, check out MediaTech.edu. And if you live in the area, schedule a free tour. I promise the minute that you come in here, you're going to be super happy with it and real excited about your education. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we'll see you again next week with another podcast. Thanks.
All right.
Absolutely. Thank you.